Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today, we'll show you how teachers, administrators, and students are working to improve their school systems. In Maryland, we see how funds are being reallocated to address the shocking state of disrepair in some low-income school districts. And in New Orleans, we speak with a group of teens being recognized for their ideas to improve mental health. But we begin with a new push to get more electric school buses on the road. Manuel Bajorquez has more on what could be a greener future for the iconic yellow school bus.
You do your very best now, Forrest.
I sure will, Mama. I'm Forrest Gump.
From iconic movies to cartoons.
Off we go!
Hail to the bus driver, bus driver, bus driver. Hail to the bus driver, bus driver.
The yellow school bus is a symbol of growing up in the USA. It's also a workhorse of the transportation industry. There are almost 500,000 school buses in the United States, moving 25 million children between home and school over an estimated 4 billion miles a year. 90% of them run on diesel.
The exciting part to me is that if we took those and made them all electric, that would take 5 million tons of carbon emissions off of the roads where these school buses travel on a day-to-day basis.
Britton Smith is president of Bluebird,
So you can see from the front end, it looks just like a regular school bus.
which has been making buses for nearly 100 years.
This gives better acceleration than diesel, more torque.
The company added this 40,000 square foot facility in Fort Valley, Georgia, to produce more zero-emission electric vehicles. Smith says they've put 1,000 on the road since 2018.
Can these buses hold the charge to where they need to go?
Absolutely. So the really great part is that our school buses have a range of about 130 miles. Now most school routes are only 30 to 40 miles in the morning and afternoon. And then it always returns to the same place at night. So every night you're charging. It takes about anywhere between 4 to 8 hours to charge overnight, and then you're ready to go for the next day.
Several bus makers have gotten into the electric vehicle market. Still, so far, just more than 1% of school buses are electric. Part of it is basic math. The electric kind can cost $375,000, more than double the cost of a traditional bus.
Okay, here we go.
The bipartisan infrastructure law earmarked $5 billion to help school districts offset the costs of starting to go electric.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
But advocates say those districts stand to save $100,000 per electric bus in fuel and maintenance costs. Sue Gander is director of the Electric Bus Initiative.
So over the lifetime of a bus, which might be around 15 years or so, you're seeing those savings, and those savings are going right back to the school districts.
In Miami-Dade schools, the 20 electric buses rolled out this school year came from a car maker's settlement with Florida over emissions violations. And part of the push came from those who'd be on board.
You had students who wanted to see this?
Yes, we did. We have several student groups, environmental clubs, so all of that factored into what we were going to do.
Students in lower income communities are more likely to ride the bus, and diesel exhaust can impact their respiratory health.
I'm looking around seeing all these electric buses, and you see a smile on my face. It's a good feeling because we're doing something good, for the community, for our students, for the district. This is an electric bus.
James Hicks is the administrative director of Miami-Dade Schools Transportation Department. He says they're still fine-tuning routes and charging schedules.
That's where the AC compressors are.
Unlike other parts of the country, the heat and need for air conditioning here also draw on the batteries.
Being electric, we're going to be, saving on the fuel cost, no more oil changes, things like that.
The district plans to add 30 more electric buses, joining those making the iconic yellow bus greener.
Let's hop off the bus and onto the playing field. In California, girls flag football recently became an official varsity sport, and one team is getting some special assistance. CBS Bay Area's Vern Glenn takes to the sidelines to see how an NFL legend is getting back in the game.
We have strength! Yeah. We have smarts! We have that dog!
Menlo's girls flag football team also has a Hall of Famer on their coaching staff.
Everyone else can freak out. You got to be peaceful. Get in your hand and rip it.
Steve Young is an assistant coach for the first-year program. He's helping out his longtime friend and former 49er teammate, John Pay.
John said, you want to come help out? And I got a full-time job, so it's not like I can, but I come over a couple hours a week and I try to help out. And we're running the old 49er, plays and the signals. And so if you have the 49er signals, you can steal our signals. But it's easy for me to come in, jump in, and help out John because it's like we learned it 30 years ago.
One of the girls was somehow turned on the NFL Network and saw Super Bowl 23 highlight film, and they heard some of the plays. Well, Coach Pay, I heard the play on the NFL Network last night.
Most of the girls are playing organized football for the first time. Young and Pay are having a blast, teaching them the game.
Short passes need to be crisp.
Okay.
You float short passes, trouble.
But I feel like they're catching on to us too.
Then you got it.
We got to switch it up.
Then you got to rip it. What I love about the girls is they love football. It's fun to have to explain the line of scrimmage and that there's a formation and a play. Some of the things that we learned when we were younger, and it's just, and their enthusiasm for it.
Oh, that's a good play. That's good.
It also has been a perfect chance for Steve to connect with his two daughters following in Dad's footsteps.
My boys didn't play football, so my two girls are out here playing with John, the head coach, and I'm loving that they're learning about the game and why it's so cool.
Coming up, an investigation into the dilapidated conditions of some public schools. This is Eye on America. Welcome back. A recent CBS News and Stations investigation looks into our nation's crumbling schools. Facilities in some of the country's high poverty areas desperately need repairs, but we learned that much of the available funds are often diverted to wealthier districts. Stephen Stock heads to Maryland to see how that state is taking action to address the funding gap.
But it's cold. So how can I focus? Can you please talk to the school to fix the toilets and to fix the building?
Those are the words of children who spend long days inside Baltimore's aging city schools.
They're not fixing our school buildings, but they will fix white people's school buildings.
Dr. Richard Lofton reads student testimonials he gathered as part of his research project documenting the impact of crumbling campuses.
So you're saying the second floor is hotter than this floor?
Like Baltimore's Franklin High.
Wow. And I hope the people who are making decisions about education actually come into these schools and walk around and see what we've seen.
So I have to tell you, when I walk down this, I feel like I'm in a prison.
I know, right? Doesn't it? Why would your kids want to come here when it looks like you're in a prison?
Baltimore City Schools Facilities Director Cindy Smith gave us a tour of Franklin High.
No AC, you can feel it.
So this is a floor that's actually collapsing. Look along the wall, you can see it's dropped 2, maybe even 3 inches. This, folks, is an actual lab for high school students. People attend lab in this classroom.
We have a typical classroom, tack boards that are a mess, casework that needs to be replaced.
Why can't the school district do better?
Because we don't have enough money for it.
Across the country, our CBS stations found deteriorating schools in high poverty districts. In Colorado, rotting windows and damaged ceilings are part of that state's $17 billion need for repairs. In Florida, walkways riddled with leaks, exposed rusty nails. And outside Los Angeles, a water polo team practices in a decaying 70-year-old pool.
So this is impacting your grades?
Yes.
And your future?
Yes.
Schools in high poverty communities have less to spend from local property taxes. Our analysis found they invested on average 40% less in buildings than districts with low poverty. We also discovered many state governments make the disparity worse, putting more money towards booming districts that can be less diverse. Federal data shows that on average, these states give majority white school districts almost 4 times more money for capital investments than majority black districts.
For decades, Baltimore has been disinvested. There have not been the same levels of investment in a city that is majority black than in the rest of the state.
Johns Hopkins public health professor Josh Sharfstein says the funding inequity stems from generations of racial discrimination.
The consequences of that are physically manifest in school buildings.
Maryland recognized that. Now, it's targeting funding to schools most in need.
We are investing in a more equitable system across the state of Maryland than almost any other state in the country.
Lawmakers did that by targeting $400 million for building and repairing schools in lower income and minority school districts, paid for in part by taking excess property taxes from wealthier districts and giving it to poorer districts, and by a sales tax on digital products like streaming and music.
Absolutely, Maryland has to do more, and we will, and we have, and we will. The plan that we've put forward is the next 10 years.
Their 10-year plan won't come in time for the kids at Franklin High. You can't even drink the water there.
Wait, that just blows my mind.
I know, right? Many of our pipes are so deteriorated that lead flows through that water, so that water is not drinkable.
So you can't drink the water.
Cannot drink the water.
Teachers are critical to developing our nation's young minds, but many struggle when planning to start or grow their own families. Only 18% of the country's largest school districts offer paid parental leave. It's an issue forcing many educators to plan births over the summer or go back to work before they are ready to. Nancy Cordes speaks to a group of teachers calling for change.
Can I have a kiss? Katie McNelly has been an elementary school teacher for 12 years. But when it came time to have her own children, she realized she had a math problem.
How am I going to afford to go on leave?
Only 9 states and the District of Columbia currently guarantee some paid parental leave for public school teachers. But Virginia, where McNelly teaches, isn't one of them.
Historically, teachers have always been told if you want to have a baby, you just have to time it to have your baby over summer vacation. For anyone who ever had to deal with infertility issues or pregnancy loss, I can't even imagine how upsetting that must be to hear.
Luckily, McNelly's husband, James, was allowed to gift her 6 weeks of paid sick leave that he had saved up as a fellow teacher. But that left them with just a few weeks in the bank when McNelly had her second child 13 months later. What would you have done if your husband didn't happen to be a teacher in the same school system?
I have no idea.
Educators can qualify for 12 weeks of unpaid leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act. But at an average salary of around $66,000 a year, many teachers can't afford to go unpaid for long.
So I had saved up all of my sick time for 7 years, and it was all gone in the first 6 weeks of being off. So the second half of my leave was entirely unpaid.
Casey Montenay teaches in Delaware, which passed a law granting some public school teachers parental leave back in 2018. That was after she had her first son, but before she got pregnant with her second.
I was obviously ecstatic, but I think my other thought was, why not sooner?
Many states say the problem is the price tag. California Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed paid leave for teachers after state school officials raised concerns that it could cost between $43 and $163 million a year.
When paid parental leave is not offered, people leave the workforce at higher rates.
Heather Pesky is president of the National Council on Teacher Quality. She says each time a teacher leaves, it can cost the school district an estimated $9,000.
School districts say we just can't afford to give every teacher a few months of paid leave. You would say what?
I say you can't afford not to give teachers paid parental leave.
Montenay says without that leave, she herself might have moved on.
Educators are in the business of children and families. So to have someone not care about your own family, it makes you wonder, should I even be working here?
What do you see? As for McNelly, she went back to work just 4 weeks after her son Connell was born this spring.
gets me a little emotional thinking about like just how much better everyone would be if we were helping out each other a little bit more.
Ahead, we hear directly from teens speaking out about mental health and earning national recognition. That story is next. We close our show with a plea to pay closer attention to young people's mental health. It comes from an unexpected place, inside a juvenile detention center. I sat down with 3 teens whose difficult path in life resulted in an award-winning mental health project. To protect their privacy, we won't be showing their faces, but you will hear their unique perspectives.
Mental health is important at every stage of life.
This simple but impactful video submission on mental health was awarded first place in a nationwide competition. But this group of high schoolers in New Orleans remain anonymous. They're known to the outside only as the voices behind the walls.
Hopefully, if we could get this to work, it'll have a drastic impact on our community.
I'm looking at 3 sweet-faced teenagers. That's the first thing I saw, the smiles on your faces.
These 3 among 8 incarcerated students who brainstormed that winning concept for the Aspen Challenge.
Thank you for giving the voices behind the walls a voice.
A competition in select cities which solicits solutions from high schoolers on domestic issues.
Was this your first video project?
This was a first for all of us, and then our resources is limited.
To be honest, we didn't have computers to do it, so that was another challenge.
Unlike other high schools, these students didn't have access to technology. Yet they said it was easy to develop a plan to address mental health challenges, simply based on their lived experience.
They label us, and it's crazy because they don't even know us. Like,
who's they?
Society. They don't understand that I'm really a good child. I've been through some things, I did some things I regret, but at the end of the day, I'm a good child.
All 3 are accused of committing serious crimes and face potentially decades in prison if convicted. Their cases haven't been heard yet, and they've been instructed not to talk about it.
I had a lot of hatred in my heart, and I always felt like, it wasn't enough. So I just tried to, trying to find that wound and that love somewhere else. And I thought I found it in the streets.
Travis Hill School is securely inside New Orleans Juvenile Detention Center. Dozens of teens are held here and attend the public school.
What is it like to go to school here? It sounds like it's transformative.
When you hear they got people that actually sit down with you and ask you what's going on, like, what do you want for yourself?
The students said family counseling sessions would bring understanding of one another's grief and trauma.
The parents will learn skills. They will also get the understanding of what trauma is, what grief is, like stress, anxiety.
Unlike the other public schools, the Travis Hill team couldn't attend the ceremony.
The first team that's winning the first place prize, they're not here with us today. This is Travis Hill School!
My first words to the kids was like, all y'all are being heard now. Not just here, but all over the United States. Y'all have just spoken for every kid that's incarcerated or detained in this United States.
Byron Goodwin is the director of Travis Hill Schools.
We're a school of voice, so we give our kids an opportunity to voice what they feel, voice what they think. We're just in an unfortunate space, but have a fortunate opportunity where they've been told so long that they can't be educated, they can't be learned, there'll never be nothing.
So where are we going?
So here we're going to go and take a tour of the facility.
Goodwin led us from the stark exterior of the campus to a vibrant interior. Students juggle a full day of classes and eat their meals surrounded by art they had in hand in creating. Here, a caterpillar blossoming into a wall of butterflies.
So the kids came up with the transformation piece because they feel like they're in a transformation stage.
I really want them to see the change in me. Like, I want them to see the person I am now. And I somewhat want them to forget about the person I was then.
Who was that person?
I don't even know. She long gone.
She's long gone.
Yeah, that's my piece right there on the wall behind you. I was at the bottom, I turned to God, he helped me climb.
Winning the challenge brought these teens a lesson on being heard and understood.
Doing this, it just gave me a voice, and I expressed it. I want to achieve greatness.
Each shared big dreams beyond these walls.
Sometimes having a voice is the ultimate power.
A lot of people wouldn't think that we could do something like this, but we actually can. And this is not even the best thing we could do. We could do greater than that.
Will you?
We will.
Definitely.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.